Alright, I can't lie to y'all. I've always wanted to do this, and there's no better time than right now to do so. So I apologize in advance for anybody's eardrums that I break trying to attempt this, but here goes nothing. Give me 1 second. And Hey guys, it's your guy in the chair here, and look, this is my review for I Want to Dance with Somebody, starring Naomi Ackie, Stanley Tucci, Ashton Sanders, Nafessa Williams, and it was directed by Casey Lemons, and our story follows none other than one of the greatest vocal artists of all time, Miss Whitney Houston. I mean, the life and death of Whitney Houston. This is a biopic. That's as simple as the plot gets. That's all you really need to know. Honestly, for anybody who knows the story of Whitney Houston, which a lot of people probably do, because I mean, like I said, she's one of the greatest vocal artists of all time, one of the greatest talents ever to grace the stage any and everywhere. Anytime she did perform, one of the best voices I've personally ever heard from a female vocal artist. She's absolutely, well, honestly, a vocal artist in general. She's absolutely immaculate, spectacular talent. Whitney Houston was. She was amazing. And honestly, I became a bigger fan of hers, honestly, after she died, unfortunately, just because if for anybody who grew up in the late 90s, a 90s baby, everybody knows once Whitney Houston passed away, for the next 4 months or so, your house was probably only listening to Whitney Houston. Your parents were only playing Whitney Houston in the house. At a certain point, I Have Nothing was probably a Negro spiritual for us on Saturday mornings, washing the dishes, cleaning the house up. Me and my brother would literally vacuuming our rooms, cleaning up all of our rooms, and honestly, the downstairs living room, cleaning all areas of our house, literally just saying, I have nothing, nothing, nothing. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna keep singing for y'all. I'm so sorry about that, but yeah, y'all get what I'm trying to say here. Look, Whitney Houston had an impact on everybody's lives before she died, and especially after. And this is the story. This is the story of her life here. And basically, look, guys, I'm just gonna get to what I liked about the movie, what I didn't like about the movie. There is quite a bit that I didn't necessarily like, but here I'm gonna start with what I did like, and I'll start with this. No matter how you feel about someone portraying Whitney Houston, because I know a lot of people, look, I hear a lot of older folks saying like they don't want to watch the movie because they don't necessarily want to see anybody emulate her or try to replicate what Whitney Houston did. They know, the people in this movie know that they cannot replicate what this woman did. Everybody knows that there is not a single person on this earth that can copy that voice, that stage presence. There's nobody in the world that can do that. But I will say this. Naomi Ackie, she presented herself to this role in a very humble way, and I say that because she's not. I'll get this out the way. She's not singing in the film. She said that in an interview. She is able to hold a tone, and she's probably doing that for bits and parts of the movie, but she's not singing at all. They're playing the songs over her voice, and she's honestly just capturing Whitney's style. She's capturing the essence of who Whitney was on stage. She's capturing that smile. Y'all know Whitney loved to show her teeth. Y'all look, but Naomi Ackie is doing her best to honor this woman, and she's honestly did an incredible job. I really enjoyed her performance and her portrayal as Whitney Houston. I think she did an incredible job. She did exactly everything she could do to be one of the stars of this film, and well, I mean, she's the main star of the film, Naomi Ackie, because she's playing Whitney Houston. But honestly, like, a lot of people just don't necessarily feel right about seeing, one of their favorite artists of all time, being portrayed by somebody else. And I mean, I guess that's okay. Like, for example, Michael Jackson is one of my favorite artists of all time. I don't know who you can get to play Michael Jackson in Michael Jackson biopic. I'm very curious to see who they would get to do that. But look, this Naomi Akkie's performance in this movie, literally from beginning to end, is the most humbling performance I've seen. And like, she's honestly doing everything she can to honor this woman's legacy, and she did a really good job in my opinion. So I think her performance itself is definitely worth watching this movie. And on top of that, well, the only other thing I really enjoyed about this movie was Stanley Tucci's character as Clive Davis, her manager. He was incredible. Stanley Tucci is incredible in anything and everything he does. So I mean, that's not even news at this point. Stanley Tucci is going to be a gem in almost anything he does. Like I love Stanley Tucci so much. Dude is always incredible. But I mean, look, any scene that involves Whitney and Clive Davis talking to each other, so Naomi Ackie and Stanley Tucci, best scenes in the film. Best, like, relationship wise, the actual heartfelt moments between the two where Whitney could actually just be herself. Clive was the only person in the world she really felt like she could just be her around. Well, her and her I think her name was Robin. Yeah, Nafessa Williams' character, Robin, that was her quote-unquote best friend or slash lover, however y'all want to see it. I mean, yeah, there was a lover because in the movie she portrayed as a lover, quote-unquote best friend. But I mean, yeah, so Whitney and Clive, their relationship was like one of the strongest in the film, and that just showed. And honestly, on top of that, Stanley Tucci was the best actor in the film. But I mean, that just goes without saying. Like I said, Stanley Tucci is always going to be amazing, and no matter what he does. But Naomi Ackie's performance, I really thoroughly enjoyed. I thought she did her best because here, like I said, there's bad in this film, and I'll get to the bad itself. And then, honestly, the bad doesn't necessarily have nothing to do with Naomi Ackie herself. She did everything she could with what she was working with, and she was working with a lot of mediocrity. If I'm being real here, like the director approached this film. I mean, and look. The Whitney story has been told thousands of times at this point. I mean, you've seen it on BET, you've seen it on TV One. I mean, you've seen it on, if you watch black television, you've seen it on a lot of other black networks of just like different, portrayals of the Whitney Houston story. And while the story has been told thousands upon thousands of times, the director kind of approached this film as if, like, yeah, you guys already know the story, so we're not really going to put much effort into showing it to you as if this is the first time you're seeing this. And honestly, that's kind of where the film, kind of takes a step back, and honestly, it hurts itself by not trying to portray this film as if it is the first time we are seeing Whitney on the big screen. Because I mean, to my memory, there was a Whitney documentary in 2015, but that was just, Whitney. That was Whitney Houston herself. She wasn't being portrayed by anybody. This is the first time we've ever seen someone actually try to portray Whitney Houston on screen. And so I felt like the director should have made it seem like this is the first time we are seeing this being done on screen. But the way this entire movie was treated, it's treated as if, like you already know the story, which many of us do, but they completely speed through everything. So, I mean, if you haven't guessed by now, I am done with what I liked about the movie. Naomi Ackie was incredible. Stanley Tucci, immaculate. Simple as that. Everybody else in the movie, Nafessa Williams, who plays Robin, she's good. She's not bad in the film, but my problem with the rest of the film is just like it's half-assing its way through this entire story here. Like, it's literally treating like, if you didn't necessarily know like who Whitney Houston was for whatever reason going into this film, if you didn't necessarily know like pivotal details about her story, you just knew certain highlights and things like that, you're just going literally through, like, this film is literally just taking you through. It's not even detailing certain aspects of her life. It's literally just flipping through pages, like showing you, yeah, this happened, flip, yeah, this happened, flip, yeah, this happened, flip. I mean, for the first hour of this film, you literally go through 11 years of her life. That is the fastest pacing I've ever seen in my life. And honestly, it's crazy because the movie starts out in 1994, the American Music Awards, one of her greatest live performances of all time. It starts out with that. And normally when a movie starts like in a year, like it's pretty far ahead, I thought that's normally where the movie ends. So once the actual movie started, after they did the intro with the 1994 American Music Awards, and then we go to 1983 where she's singing in the church choir. From there, from 1983 to 1994, all of that is covered within the first hour of the film. And honestly, by the time I'm checking, like, I literally, we get to 1994 in the movie, and I check my phone to see what time it is. I'm like, I had to double check, because I'm like, oh, wait, it's only been an hour? Like, that, it felt like so much has happened in that hour. They don't even keep you up to date with like the years per se. Like, they'll probably go from like 1983, 1986, 1986 to 1991, just random little jumps. What they kind of use to tell you that we've done a time jump is they'll like one of Whitney's iconic outfits that she wore, or a wig that she wears, like she's wearing her hair differently. Like they'll do subtle little hints like that to tell you where we are, in this timeline of her story. And honestly, like that's why I felt like where the movie lost itself. Another thing is, majority of the cast, other than Naomi Ackie, Stanley Tucci, like I said, Nafessa Williams did okay. Whoever played Whitney's mom, she did really good as well. I thought she was a good part in the film. But other than that, every other character, her dad, Ashton Sanders is Bobby Brown. I mean, look, everybody else is just half-assing it here. It's like these characters are just here to literally play these characters and not give them any purpose. They're just basically here to say, yeah, I'm this person, and this is my portrayal of this person. I'm not really going to try much to do anything at this point. It's like the movie just kind of wanted to show Whitney, and then it's like, look, for me, it's like there are moments in the film where you can actually resonate with Whitney Houston. You actually feel, the power in her voice, and like I said, Naomi Ackie does a good job of capturing the essence of Whitney Houston. But where I felt like the movie kind of hurt itself is it was afraid to. I want to say I'm gonna say they were afraid to kind of ruin Whitney's legacy, because they know a lot of OG fans, like they don't necessarily want to see one of their idols just be completely shattered on screen, or somebody messing up a portrayal of Whitney Houston. And I felt like the director just didn't try to take any chances on anything in the film. I felt like she just wanted to keep it completely to the script, or by the book. She didn't want to do anything different. She didn't necessarily want to try to, you can't necessarily make the story your own because it is history. But like, for example, in Straight Outta Compton, with F. Garrett Gray directed that. See, the thing about that movie is, the only complaint that people have about that movie that I consistently hear is the first half of the movie just isn't, or the second half of the movie just isn't as strong as the first. And the first half of Straight Outta Compton is incredible. But the thing about Straight Outta Compton that I loved was the fact that they are walking us through this story, and we actually felt like we were in the 90s era with these guys, with Dre, with Cube, Snoop, all them guys, with Eazy-E. We were with those guys in the studio actually, experiencing what they experienced. It felt like the first time this was being introduced to anybody. Like, I remember watching Straight Outta Compton. This is a perfect example of this. The cruising down the street of My 6'4" scene. No matter if you were born back then, no matter if you were born like after that, after the NWA era, everybody who was in that theater watching that scene felt like we were all experiencing that song be created for the first time. And that's the magic that this film was missing. Like, this movie would literally just, I Want to Dance with Somebody would like with some songs, they would, of course, they have to treat them a certain way. Like, I Want to Dance with Somebody, of course, they have to put that song on full display. That's the name of the movie. But other songs in Whitney's catalog, we kind of just, they kind of just play on the radio, or they'll just play subtly and just be like, oh yeah, you got another number one hit. Here it is. Here's a number one hit. You got another one and another one and another one. And it's like they're just completely skipping over like detailing this, giving us an actual experience with Whitney Houston. It's like we're being walked through a museum tour of just Whitney Houston's best moments and her worst moments as well, and it's just being completely flipped through like a very, very fast. I mean, look, this movie, excuse this very bad, I'm not necessarily going to call it a pun, but look, the movie moves at crackhead speed. Look, no offense, Whitney. Look, the movie moves, it's like when people say that crackheads can develop superpowers. This movie's superpower was super speed, because the pacing was all over the place. It's moving so fast, and it's crazy because once the second half is really where the drug heavy use comes into play, and that's when the movie actually kind of starts to slow down. It's crazy when she starts to take the drugs, the movie actually slows down a little bit. But I mean, look, I just personally felt like they didn't put their full effort in trying to make this an experience for people. They honestly just wanted to make this a highlight of what Whitney's life was. And like I said, we just moved very fast through a lot of things where I felt like either needed to be a bit more detailed, or just so we can actually have some emotional attachment to Whitney. Because she died in 2012. So yeah, I like I said, I became a bigger fan of hers after she died, unfortunately. But for there was one person in the theater who was talking to her grandmother. First of all, they were talking the entire damn time, because I was mad, but I wasn't too mad, because honestly, the grandma had to keep her up to date on what was actually happening, because it was happening so fast. There were certain key elements that were actually being missed, and the grandma had to explain it to the daughter. So that's what I'm trying to say here. Like, the movie is moving, it's moving at a pace where, like, they're like, yeah, you already know this, we don't really need to stay here that long. Next. It's just moving so fast, nobody can really enjoy what's actually happening here on screen. And then, like I said, they just, like, Ashton Sanders' portrayal as Bobby Brown was, I'll say this. I've seen more memorable portrayals of Bobby Brown on BET and all of them on TV One, etc., etc. I've seen more memorable Bobby Brown performances through that, and it sucks because Ashton Sanders is an incredible talent. I mean, he was absolutely phenomenal in Moonlight, and then after that, for whatever reason, he picks kind of mid projects like Equalizer 2 and Captive State. Oh my god, like Captive State. Well, Captive State was literally like a blast from the past. I completely forgot that was even a movie, but I did see it, and it was still to this date one of the most random movies I've ever seen. I really can't even tell you what happened in that movie, if I'm being honest, but I do remember watching it because it was really one of the most random movies I've ever seen. I didn't understand why Ashton Sanders picked that project. I heard he's pretty good in the Wu-Tang series, but like I said, he should be because he's very talented. But it was very painfully obvious here that he just showed up. They said, look, man, all you got to do is do the dance, wear the hair, and you're Bobby Brown. You ain't really got to do much else. So you can just be a dickhead. Just be a dickhead the whole time. You can be Bobby Brown. But like I said, I've seen more memorable performances on BET renditions of the Whitney Houston story. So Ashton Sanders, I mean, he did okay. Like I said, all the other characters and cast, they're really just here to be people. They're not really here to do anything other than just play a role in Whitney's life. And honestly, like I said, this movie really just half-asses its way through this story. It doesn't really necessarily give her any depth. Like I said, it's not necessarily an experience. Look, this movie was from the writers of Bohemian Rhapsody, and while a lot of people have their, problems with that film, at least I walked out of that film saying that, Rami Malek, Freddie Mercury literally left it all out there on stage or on, set, however you want to put it. Rami Malek literally left it all out there as Freddie Mercury. I mean, he did an incredible job. And like I said, there are moments in this movie where Naomi Ackie is allowed to shine as Whitney, but then it's like other parts of the movie we're just like, all right, can we skip this now? Because clearly y'all don't care enough to go into depth about what you're talking about. You don't care enough to actually detail anything. You just want to skip over stuff, and we're moving at a very rapid pace at this point, so let's just skip to the next scene. And that's what they do. They don't stay in one place too long, and honestly, some people could appreciate that from a biopic. Me, not really. I want my biopics to be an experience. Biopics should be as if you are experiencing something for the first time, like Straight Outta Compton was. Straight Outta Compton was experienced for the first time. Granted, Straight Outta Compton had never been shown on screen before, but like I said, nobody has portrayed Whitney Houston before. This was the first time we were seeing this, so it should have been more of a grand experience than it was. Another problem I kind of had with the movie, like I said, she didn't necessarily... I just had a problem with the movie just kind of like glancing over certain songs. Like I wanted her to be like certain notes that I wanted Whitney to hit, or certain ballads that I wanted her to sing. They didn't necessarily, they kind of like touched on, but they just skipped through. I Want to Dance with Somebody's the biggest number. Like I said, it's like for example, they'll literally just go, they'll go, hey, we have a movie script for you. We wanted you to check it out, see what it says. They'll do a zoom in on the screen. It says The Bodyguard, and then you don't hear much else about it for the rest of this film. It's just all over the place. They're really just touching on stuff, just jogging your memory. Oh yeah, she did that. I remember this. I remember that. Blah, blah, blah. And we're just moving on to the next page. They don't necessarily give you an experience here, and that's where I feel like the movie really fell short in trying to be a biopic. Like I said, overall, guys, Naomi Akkie's performance was incredible. She was just tied down by everybody else's mediocrity except Stanley Tucci and Nafessa Williams and whoever played her mom. I don't know the actress's name, but those four actors, aside from the rest of this mediocrity, they did a good job. But overall, this is kind of just it honors Whitney. Okay, I'll say this. Naomi Akkie's performance honors Whitney's legacy. The movie itself just wasn't trying to ruin it, and you can't be mad at a movie for not trying to ruin someone's legacy. But at the same time, if you're not even going to try to do anything different or try to make this an actual experience for people, why release it in the first place? I mean, that's kind of where I was at the point of the film. And it's like they kind of picked and choose when to have her performances be. Like I said, she didn't. No, Naomi Ackie didn't sing at all in the movie. Really, she, like I said, she can only hold a tune. She's not necessarily singing. So I was very confused as to why they're picking and choosing when to have Whitney's performances be like, or why some performances were stronger than the other. Like in the beginning of the film, first of all, in the beginning of the film when she's singing in the church choir, this is how you know Whitney was for everybody. There was an usher that walked in the film. This is a little white kid. I never expect this kid to listen to Whitney Houston in his life. First of all, he tried to be a black choir director, thinking he was directing the Whitney singing her little nose. He's doing this with his thumbs up. It's the whitest choir director shit I've ever seen in my life. But I don't know. But that performance was very strong though in the beginning. And then the scene also in the beginning of the film where she's singing at the club, you know, in place for her mom because her mom quote unquote lost her voice. When she's singing in the club, that's a very strong performance as well. And then throughout the rest of the film, it's kind of like some songs, they'll kind of just play a montage over her doing certain things in her life while the song's playing in the background. And then the national anthem performance, that was a very strong one as well. And then her 1994 scene at the end where she's playing at the American Music Awards, that was a strong one as well. But they just kind of pick and choose when to actually have Whitney's voice be effective in the film. It's like, I don't know. The movie was just kind of all over the place. Like I said, I don't think, honestly, for the performance that Naomi Ackie gave, I don't think the movie did enough to really hold her up. Like, they didn't really do enough to really, you know, push her performance out there. Like, the movie kind of just dragged her down. The movie did its best to drag her down with it. The movie did its best. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to catch my words here. The movie did its best to drag, you know, Naomi down with it, but Naomi did everything she could to pull this thing up. Stanley Tucci as well. Like I said, Stanley Tucci, absolutely phenomenal, guys. But for all those reasons and so many more, guys, I'm going to go ahead and give I Want to Dance with Somebody a 2.75 out of 5 stars. Alright guys, so that is my review for I Want to Dance with Somebody. Please let me know in the comments below. Did you see it? What did you think about it? Look, Whitney Houston, her legacy, what did it mean to you? Just let me know in the comments below, guys. Look, I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and so much more. Look, guys, this is your guy in the chair. More content coming to you soon.